Ayin Beis, Volume 1, Maimer, Discourse 27. Aven Beis, page 200, beginning of chapter 104. How's the Frierdiker Rebbe sum this Maimer up? Yaakov Osam Atzeva v'loi Gal. Okay. The Yaakov created built a marker and not a heap, right? Which is the aven Beis, as the Posach. Okay, so where are we up to? We finished now the second interpretation of Sefirah from the word story, Sipur Haggadah, right? And the Sipur Haggadah concluded was the final step, that it tells us the story of the hidden thoughts, the words of the Reb Shem Tov, which goes all the way up, not just to the root of the Gvul, not just to the Eir HaGvul, meaning the Sheirish, the 10 hidden spheres, which is the root of the structure of the 10 spheres of Atzilus, the Mekedei HaEiris, as he put it, the Mekedei HaSpheres, the roots of the spheres, the sources of them, but also to the Eir HaBli Gvul. That Maven Dover Metech Dover, we come to understand that there's also the infinite power, which in the language that he began discussing this in the last few chapters was that not only Das Tachten, we also come to a perception of Das Elya, which means a higher level of bittul, a bittul that comes from the perspective from above. So Das Tachten B'chlol is Mamala Kalam. So in other words, relatively speaking, the 10 hidden spheres is also the root of Mamala Kalam. If you want to know the perspective of Das Elyon, you go to the root of Sevav Kalam, which is the Eir HaBli Gvul. Because the Eir HaGvul, at the end of the day, no matter how abstract and how distant it is, it's still connected to, it has a relationship with Gvul. Because it's God envisioning Gvul. So even if it's really a power of Bli Gvul, because it's God's power to be able to do anything, and as we learned earlier, Shir Atzmei B'Keach, that in the infinite possibilities and the infinite power, there's also the power to create something finite. But it's still at the end. It's 10. It's about 10 spheres. So therefore, you have to say that it is in some way a source for the 10 spheres, even if it is the way it is in the Etzem HaNefesh. As we said, it's not shape there. It's not form. It's all one. It's shapeless and so on. But then there's Eir HaBli Gvul, is where you recognize that there's a divine element that's beyond all of existence. And being that it's beyond all of existence, it also evokes a level of bittul that's not just not tefes makim, that you're subjugated, but that the whole existence is nullified in the presence of the Bli Gvul. And the interesting thing is that one leads you to the next. That's the key thing. Because if it doesn't start from 10 spheres of Atzilus, if you're just going through the faith of Eir HaBli Gvul, it's not what we're talking about. You want to have that the Gvul, the structure of existence, through its own contemplation, through a process of elimination, the Yedias HaChiyuv and the Yedias HaShlila, comes to understand that there's an Eir HaBli Gvul. So the end of the day is that we're talking about the Gvul has led you now to Bli Gvul. So that means the 10 spheres of Atzilus have led us to a place that tells you there's something beyond the 10. It's like the piece of art that the artist created led you first that there must have been in him that desire for that particular piece of art, but then it also leads you to say that he has infinitely other possibilities that he could have created. So the piece of art has led you now to realize that there's a whole other reality. And compared to that Bli Gvul, this Gvul is kula kamei k'lo chashiv. It's meaningless. Insignificant. Let me explain what I mean by meaning. It's not meaningless. Of course, he wants it, so there's a kavanah in it. But to compare it to the magnitude, the grandeur of the divine, in that sense, it pales in comparison. So again, it's not meaningless as in insignificant. Is that he's talking in the context of the Bli Gvul of Elokus, the haflah, consequential. In other words, it's only harder. It's only it's like saying taking a brilliant person and taking one idea of his and say, this idea defines him? No. This idea is one piece of beyond. So bottom line is that you see, the beauty of this all in the interface is you want to have existence remains existence, but existence is aware and understands, comprehends something that's completely beyond all of existence. That's the bottom line. Okay, so that covers that.
So in Mr. we did not have that knowledge?
No, not quite like that. Misper led us, first of all, Misper primarily, as he says, in Kalim, and Sipur is primarily in Eid already. So you need the Kalim because Kalim reveal Eid, as he said. Without Kalim, without faculties, without even the Chachma Bina doesn't have where to reveal itself. But the main focus is the revealing what's going on behind the scenes. With Misper, what you get to is focusing primarily on number, quantity, which is number of Malchus and Malchus. And that leads you, as he said, Es Dar Kelimnis, and Kol Shadar Kelimnis, to the S, that the Misper really, of Elam Hazeh, which focuses on a negative, because it could be that's why counting in this world is not positive. Within it, you come to appreciate, like someone tells you a number, and through that, you go and climb and say, oh, that number reflects quality. To Misper to Eidus. So it's also an element of Sefirot, an interface, but I would say it's much more about seeing quality inside quantity. And there does not necessarily reach you to a place that's beyond Misper completely. There, the most it leads you is to Misper Shalei Sofar. That the number that is beyond number, but it's still in the world of structure. He also said, if you recall, the parentheses here, as he said this in the last chapter. Kuv Gimel, parentheses, like a third of the way from the bottom. Page Kuf Tzadik Ches. Yeah, that's clear. And another place to look, just to get all the contrast, is page Kuf Pei Beis. End of chapter Tzadik Daled. Huh? Yeah, because distinction. So if you look in the page Kuf Pei Beis, he also says, Lofize Yuven in Asipur Shabbos is Gam Badrege She'en Shaykh in HaMisper. And Misper is primarily a Malchus. So it also Megala. Remember, the same word Sefirah has three meanings. Number, story, Behiris. So it's telling you three things at once, at the end of the day. Or you could say three levels in Sefirah itself. Illumination. We're going to learn now. So now we move on to interpretation number 3. So after, I think it was 14 chapters, what was the amount? Yeah, I think it was after Tzadik Aleph through Kuv Gimel. Would be 13 chapters of discussing story. Now begins in this Maimer of Vayetze, this third interpretation of Sefirah from the word Behirus. So let's learn. Ayin Beis Elikim. Yaakov says, after he's given the brachas, the Eibishter blesses him with ufarasta and everything will be good in his journey to Charan. So he establishes a type of monument, a marker.
His journey from Charan.
Oh, on the way back, yeah. So that the end of Vayetze, right? Yeah. Right. After he makes the deal with Lavan. Sorry. 1 second. Aven Hazeh Shasamti is in the beginning or the end of Vayetze? Oh, so okay. So then it's correct. Then that because that was the difference. There's also Ad Hagal. Let me see the Chumash a second. Where is it? Bottom line is he's thanking Hashem. So he says, Aven Hazeh, this stone that I place here, Shasamti Matzeva. This is where the first time matzeva is used. Matzeva really means a marker. Ayin Beis will be a house of God. That is it, right? In the beginning. Yeah. This is it. After the dream, and Hashem promises him he's afraid to go. And after the dream, and he's ready to go. Yeah, right after he wakes up. So then we ask him a biker. So we ask Yaakov a biker, we can say aven ashasam merei shesov. Yosemesi matzeva. Right. That's where he calls the place Beis Kale. And that's where he says, V'shavti b'shalom, that the promise in aven hazeh sheshamti matzeva yeh beis l'kol shadit l'chased. The promise he makes that this house will be Beis Elikim. What does Rashi say on this? Oh, it's a whole Rashi, a long Rashi. This is also, remember, this is a Rabbi, where he was, Har Miriah. So this is the Posach. V'tzarech lav ma'u in matzeva, the man is chadish b'zeh. We have to understand, what is this union of this matzeva? How does he translate matzeva? Marker? The man is chadish b'zeh. The God mashoye b'tchila aven stam. Before he says, he already says v'samti yourself aven. Monument. Yeah, okay. And right before it says v'samti aven, right? A few psukim before when he says. No, the few psukim before it says v'samti aven.
V'samti aven.
But they say so. If he takes the hat and then he says, yeah. V'yikach aven. So he's asking, what's this chadish the matzeva? Before it says already, in the beginning, aven stam v'asa matzeva. It says that he took a stone, Yosem Esem Matzeva. I'm not sure what the question is. Because there also it says, Yosem Esem Matzeva.
No, because before it was an aven that he used to put under his head.
No, I'm saying, yeah, but...
Then it became Matzeva. He says, what's the Chiddush?
No, I know that, but nobody says, the Gabba what? Okay, so the pasuk also says before. So what's the chiddush? What happened from the stone that it became matzeva? What's added? What did it contribute? Also understood that from this stone will become a house of God. How could you build a bayis from one stone? Isn't a house built from several stones? And here there was only one stone, specifically. First it says he took from the stones that we put under his head, that shanasa aven achas, like the Chazal say, that Rashi brings, that it became one stone. So it's one stone. So how could from one stone become a house? A home. V'gam dahav le'lemer tiyeh beis elikim. Why did it say yiyeh? It should have been the future, that it will become tiyeh. Oh, not lashon. Yiyeh is also lashon. Yeah. Right. It's also tiyeh. It should have said teisha lashon nekeva. But shekasu kein va'evan hazeh is lashon nekeva. Ma'u emre yiyeh lashon zocher. My mistake, not tiyeh as in also, it's also yiyeh. Tiyeh, that it should have been Lashon Nekeva, not Lashon Zocher yiyeh. Well, the Haven calls Yesh Lahagdim Tchila Mashnas Bar Le'el. To understand all this, we have to preface what we learned earlier. We preface what was discussed earlier. Beis Pirushim B'Sfiras. B'Shem Sefirah. Two interpretations in the name Sefirah, Lashon Mispur and Lashon Sipur. Expression number and expression story. And was explained the Cholosin on Misper who became the Eris. Bekalim, comma. Sorry. Then the general union of number is in containers. The Eris and Lamalam B'chinas Misper, because energies are higher than number. Because remember, we talked energies, even though there's a Misper of Eris, but its primary thing is Eris, this more Echus, quality. Not number as we know it, as raw numbers, as in volume and quantity. And it was explained the ikanin hagbolas hamisper b'bchinas hamalchus, that the primary confinement of number is in the level of malchus. That's interpretation one. V'inyan hasipur, and sipur story hu mashakele megalim esa'er, that the containers, in other words, mispar, reveal the energy. V'zeh gam b'kelim shalamayim b'chinas hamalchus, and this is also the containers higher than malchus, where their number is not primary there. V'gam, so even the kelim higher than malchus, they reveal the air. Then he continued, remembering the explanation, the sipur, the next level is gam hashakol sefirot eres v'kelim megalim elikus. And also with the general spheres of Er and Keli together reveal the divine. Which means that through this there will be a divine revelation in the world. That was the next. And the primary thing of his story is even a higher level that reveals the hidden thoughts. Which means the 10 hidden spheres. Sharsha is the roots of the energies. The Gamagalim, and they also reveal as Ayin and Sefer Bligvul. They also reveal the transcendent infinite light, the Bligvul. I know how flawed the Ayin Sof. That means the grandeur and the grandiosity, the grandeur of the divine, how flaw. So that's right here a summary of all the chapters. You see, it starts first that it's Kalim higher than Malchus, reveals the Ayin. All that the Eris and Kalim reveal divine in existence. They then reveal also the source of the 10 spheres, which is the 10 hidden spheres, and then they even reveal Er HaBlikvul. Very clear here. Seemingly, what more can be revealed, right? But the plot thickens. So here we go. So Pei the Kuv Daled 104. V'apirish hagimel b'sfira hu meloshen aven sapir. The third interpretation is Lashon aven sapir, literally a sapphire stone. Shehu made inyan habihiris. This indicates on illumination, on brilliance. Actually, is even better. Bihiris is a brilliant light. Say er bahir, bihiris. Is er meir, that's radiating or illuminating.
Also clarity. Because a stone that's clear is the light that shines right through.
Yeah, but clarity can be, you're talking about how it looks more than just a brilliant clarity.
Well, you're seeing it. A Sefirah is more like a Haggadah, like a hearing it.
No, but one of the
We'll see. Let's see. Let's see how he divides it.
Color and clarity. One of the things is clarity.
Yeah, I understand.
3 C's.
Yeah, the 4 C's.
4 C's. The clarity.
Doesn't
say brilliance. Doesn't say brilliance.
וזהו לחלק בכלל בין הכלים ולבושים. And this is to distinguish in general between the kelim and the levushim, the containers and the garments. We'll soon see where he's going with this. HaKelim einem mastirim al ha'er. In other words, what is this adding now? Aven sapir, of course, this is the question. What does this third interpretation add after everything we've had till now? So he says, the first thing is, he says, come to distinguish between containers and levushim. Containers do not conceal on the energy. The levushim hemalimim mastirim al ha'er. Garments conceal and hide the energy, the light. V'akelim datzil is behirus. Yes, they're like what do we say? Transparent. Yeah.
Translucent, but let the light through.
And how do they conceal if that's the case?
Translucent just lets the light through. Transparent is clear.
You want to let the light through.
This can be translucent or transparent. This is not levushim conceal. The kelim don't. Well, he's just beginning to explain. He's going now into a discussion between kelim and levushim. The kelim that says behirus she'eres amalap boshim b'teicham. Kelim of Atzilus are in a form of clear. They're basically transparent or translucent. They let the light shine through them. The energies that manifest or enclose themselves within them in the containers are not concealed and hidden through them. The contrary, they radiate. They sparkle. They shine through them. al ha'er, because a container does not conceal on the energy. Now, if you have your memories correct, you remember, didn't he say earlier that the kelim can reveal why they conceal? Yep. Right? Like kelim are like oases. So obviously we're just beginning the discussion. It's all relative. And as you'll say, it's all one. But not necessarily. Okay. Imagine a window, a glass. Behira ma'ed. You see, behira here really means, as you said, clear. It's very clear, meaning it's like a perfect glass. Not behira as shining glass. We're not talking about that's what he means here, behira. She'er Hashem she'ever derech ba, the bias, that the sunlight that passes through this glass into a house, meirum is gala eir me'ed. It radiates and reveals the light increasingly.
There's no resistance.
Right. The enas chuchis masteres u'makshechas ha'ed l'geidel bihirusa, and this glass does not conceal or darken in any way, shadow. Something that shed any. Doesn't in any way limit or darken the light because of its geidel bihirusa, its total clarity. It's like a. In other words, if the window, for example, was shaded a bit, or in any way a little opaquish, would somewhat limit it. But a pure glass is completely clear,
You can't have
completely transparent.
Bush by definition, you can't have like that.
Huh?
According to this,
He's going to finish. I'm sure he's going to say. Same thing. It's an example. Same thing. The containers of the Sefirot are a container. It is a glass. Remember, we're not talking about the light itself. They do not conceal on the light. The contrary, they reveal it. This is an important point, I'm sure, because if you think of a glass, you could say, you know what, if there was no glass, it would also reveal it. But here, clearly there's something being said here, because, as we learned earlier, the air would not be revealed without the container. But if you think without a glass, you say, well, one second, if I had no glass by the window, the light would come in. But we'll get to that. So the example is just, the point is that you want to say there's something else that's not the light, but it's completely not blocking it. On the contrary, it glows, shines through it. The inyan of this is the Posach Eliyahu Isa, in the Maimer Posach Eliyahu, which we've quoted quite a number of times, as we said, that Ayin Beis seemingly can also be an interpretation of Posach Eliyahu, the different lines. It would be good to actually gather that together, Because remember the Antuchad, he went through all the different that we say Friday from Tikkueni Zohar. So what does he say? Isa Antu da fikos eser Tikunim v'karin lohun eser Sefirah. Antu, you are the one, the fikos that you transmit, nafak comes out of you, emit from you. Eser Tikunim. The word Tikunim literally detached. Tikun can be repairs, but Tikunim can be levushim. Tikunim can be also ornaments. Bottom line, it's 10 expressions. Let's put it this way for now. V'karina lahun, and he called this. V'karina lahun, yeah. Eser Sefirah. So 10 emissions came out of him, from God, and they're called 10 spheres. So now he's going to explain. The 10 spheres are called Tikunim. Pirish Tikunim and Levushim. The meaning of Tikunim, literal meaning, is garments. Garments, remember, could also be jewelry. It's also a garment. Lo yilbish gever, v'targem onkelis, lo yistaken gever. Yeah. But lo yilbish gever is that a man should not put on seamless isha. So what's Yilbush? He shouldn't dress. So the Targum is lo yistaken, which means he shouldn't adorn himself.
Like a woman does.
Yeah.
It's very important because
Halacha, because it's also like, for example, makeup. I understand. It's not just it's a jewelry.
it doesn't only mean pants.
It's not just means.
It doesn't only mean pants because it's a misinterpretation.
Yeah, I understand. Not pants. He's talking the opposite. Leil bush gever simos isha.
And the other way, yeah.
Yeah, fine. U'lecheira mipnei man nikra levushim b'shem tikunim. And lecheira, he's asking a question. Why are we calling levushim in the name of tikunim? Achayin yudua. However, the Inyan is answering yudua. It's known the mashakos of le'istaken gever means le'istaken gever. They should not adorn or dress. Koyal tachshitin, talking on jewelry and on ornaments. How would you translate tachshitin? Jewelry or ornaments? Jewelry. Okay. Shelo yuskashet gever b'tachshiti noshim. That a man, a zachar, a male, should not adorn himself with the jewelry of women.
That's also key, jewelry of women, because there is men also have.
Yeah.
It's common.
Yeah. The tachshitin im hiyesem levushim, and even though they are also considered garments, why? Because you dressed it. It's not part of your body. Just like a garment you put on, you also put on earrings, or a ring, or a necklace. Einam deim l'shar levushim. They're not comparable to other garments. B'zeh, in this shema'od sha'odam miskashet behem, because with this a person adorns himself. Hainu she'em misachdim im ha'odam. They become united with the person. Shemispolim hem umisyafa al yodan. What means united? United means it's more than just a garment to protect him from, let's say, the elements, like shoes. This is shoes you wear because you don't get hurt. Or there's garments you wear simply. You could also wear beautiful garments, but garments can also be simply for protection purposes. Here, it's also for beautification. Mispol mehem means it's like why would you put on jewelry? You don't need it to protect yourself from the wind or from the rain or from the cold. So why would you do it? Because mispol mehem, he gets excited from it. He's affected by it. Misyaf, and he beautifies himself through it. And he explains. This is easier to understand, right? This is Elam Hazan now. But that Elam Hazan is almost like but don't worry, it's only a marshal. So don't get too excited. No, but the marshal is meant to help us understand. Because there's two types of garments. There's a garment that's separate, that conceals and hides on the person. Nifred and miyuchid. And another is a unified garment, meaning a garment that connects with him. Remember, it doesn't mean it becomes one with him, it's still an ornament. You can take it on, take it off. She'ena mailam alav. It doesn't conceal in him adrab megales. It reveals him, because when you beautify yourself, what you're doing is you want to bring out the natural beauty even more. A garment. And the other type of garment can be a concealer. Like, for example, let's say you can wear a big garment and coat and actually conceal your weight or whatever it is. Or shape. Like, for example, the garments that a person dresses in them, the whole Indian is that he should be covered by them. And to conceal himself from another person. It's a covering, not a revealer. Depends, yeah, it depends. Yeah. Modesty, for sure. We should walk with modesty, with dignity before God, which is the root of tznius, hatzna, in dignity. Because they want kelim of Atzilus, maybe. Now, if it's Atzilus, it's good if it's a revealer. The problem is if it's not Atzilus, then maybe you do want, that's the whole point. Adam and Chava had no garments, because it was a pure world. They did nothing to conceal from. And so they were just themselves. Like a newborn child, there's nothing to hide. It's the only reason using your cover is when there's things, because there's a busha, there's a shame involved, and there's means something, you're guilty about something. Guiltless people don't have to cover anything. They have nothing to cover up. Like the Rashak, someone once came upstairs and he was sitting by a meeting about this. Yeah. And he was sitting there, and someone said to him, some things are opened by you. So he says, "Bei uns ist alles offen. Everything is transparent by us. Everything is open."
Nothing is hidden.
Huh? What?
Nothing is hidden.
They call it transparency today in the financial market. And when a person is by himself, he doesn't need to dress himself. Like the guy that someone comes and sees a guy, he's like walking naked in his house, and then he has a tie on. They say, "What's going on?" He says, "No, I'm here alone. Why do I need a house? What do I need garments for?" They say, "So why are you wearing a tie?" He says, "Well, just in case somebody does come and visit." It's like the Chelem story. Like the guy goes out with an umbrella, and his friend is with him, and then it starts raining. So he says, "Why don't you open your umbrella?" He says, "Because it's full of holes." So he says, "Why'd you take it then?" He says, "Because I didn't think it's going to rain." This is how we... It's an interesting psychology. I mean, we all do these strange things like that. You know this? Huh? Like we all have burglar alarms you never use. I don't know about you, mine has never been on. Just it's like those that are watching Ayin Beis and they got to this point, not worried about. No, Ayin Beis is a perfect repellent of anyone that's, because you can't really listen to this with heavy stuff. But they don't know they're gems. That's what we should say. We send out a little YouTube trailer for 2 minutes and say, these Ayin Beis classes of an hour and a half, and each one of them is a hint. If you get 4 hints in a row, we'll send you tickets to the next Led Zeppelin concert. What do you think? Have people listening through Ayin Beis. Like those radio stations, they make you listen. At some point between 1 and 3, there'll be a thing. What do you think about that? That's good. I'm still waiting the Ayin Beis for the little prize, remember Cracker Jacks? The Cracker Jacks. They had used to buy to find a shmata. So the kids loved it. Right. It was these bags of candies, whatever, Cracker Jacks, whatever. And there was always a little toy, which we would not consider a toy. We would consider a shmata. But kids, it's buried in there somewhere. I mean, people love to find treasures. That's the thing. Treasure hunts. You see the point? That's the point, Doctor. Maybe when you get to the end, it's all one. But it's finding the treasures while the journey. That's the real pleasure. We're finding hints of atzmos everywhere. That's a good way to look at it, actually. That's what we do in our lives. You travel through the world, it's all mystery. You're looking for the little sparks. Here a spark, here a spark. Yeah. So between atzmi and sarach lilbish doesn't have to get dressed. Ki'im legabe azulas. Sarach l'chasas says atzmi. Only for another does he have to cover himself. V'chein la'atzmi pnei hakeir. Oh, it's mamish thorough here. And also for yourself, because of the cold. Ukahai gavna. In other words, the garments is not for yourself per se, it's for some reason, either another person, or because there's some outside factor that's causing you to have to dress up because of cold, etc. In the desert, they dress up to protect from the heat. Yeah. That means, compared to, because of something outside of him, you need a garment, l'chasis or l'hagin, alav, to conceal and to protect. To protect him. And now there's several types of garments. This is Ayin Beis, my friends. Everything is thorough. You get a whole encyclopedia now on levushim. So you can mark chapter 104 is levushim now. It's unbelievable. I guarantee you, if someone did a study up in Nigla, what's a levush, you have all the different halachas and so on. Interesting comparative, all the different types of levushim there are. Halacha is also, besides the levushim of the Kohen Gadol, there's also, actually there it's covered the teferis. It's actually a gili thing, not a concealment. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Okay. Fine. There's many types of garments. There's garments for the head. There's garments for the body and there's garments for the legs. Hasuya me'er, that's made from skin. Shein ovim b'yes, that are very leather. Well, yeah, that they're very thick. Especially, right, exactly. Because whenever you need, let's say by the feet hit the ground, you need to have the most protected nalayim. So now he's going even further. So number one is levush is for outside of you, not for you. And now he's saying in levushim itself is garments based on what outside need you have. In other words, commensurate to the thing that you need. That's how you build a garment. How you craft. How you what's it called? You create a garment. You dress. Now he's going further. When you say conceal, it doesn't mean conceal, completely conceal. A levush is also, a garment is also commensurate and tailored, no pun intended, tailored to the mislabish, to the one who gets enclosed, who dresses himself in it. He said, before he said that there's separate, even though that they are separate garments, meaning they're not part of your body. You hang them, you could dress, you could undress, but nevertheless, they're according to the measurements of the one who dresses. The according to the thinness or thickness of the one that's getting dressed. That's how the levush, basically your weight. He calls a thinner, thicker person.
Size,
yeah, size, but thinner and wider, thicker. It's interesting, yeah. Wow. Remember, the garment industry was founded on the sixth day of creation. According to the opinions that V'yadua, and it's known, the begimul chelke haguf, in the three sections of the body that we just said, reish, guf, regel, three parts primarily. There's the head, there's the torso, and there's the legs. Hariya reish, even you see by toys, you always have these three potatoes. Small potato, the larger one, and the largest one. It just lends itself to some humor, this chapter, what can I say? So we might as well lighten it up. So you do the gimel chalkei guf reish regel hariya reish dak yeser. The head, he said this earlier also, is most dak. It's the smallest, basically, what he means by dak. It doesn't mean edel, it means smallest. V'regel of b'yeser, and the legs are the thickest. He doesn't mean now the size, literal size. It means to say that the head is I guess it actually does mean more subtle. Yeah, more sensitive, yeah. And the legs are less sensitive. That's what he means here, dak and of. So I correct myself. I didn't mean the thickness and the thinness. I thought he meant garment based on the size of the person. He doesn't mean size. He means based on the type of protection. Like, for example, shoes is going to say you need for feet because they hit the ground. The fikachem muchalakim balavushim. That's why they are distinguished in their garments as well. In other words, you put on something on your head, it's a different type of garment than what you put on your shoe and your feet. Yeah. Okay, that's correct. So reish is dak yeser regel av yeser. You're not going to put shoes on your head, basically. He's qualifying and saying even more so. So even though garments are commensurate to the thing that's being dressed up in them, not just size, we're talking now quality too. The quality. It's not just that the thing that's getting dressed is different, but simply that primarily that simply said that the thing that really determines what's the distinction between one garment and another is from things outside of the body. The beregel helach gam b'makom refesh v'tit. The legs can walk also in the place of refesh v'tit. Tit is mud, and refesh is even dirt.
No, refesh is
muddy.
And tit is like
cement,
more of a thicker type of mud.
Right. Mud and yatit is like when it gets hardened more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mud use sandals.
Yeah. Right. So in other words, he said initially he started saying that the difference is also you see that different parts of the body are different edelkeit, but he's saying it's primarily, it's not just because the leg is so-called thicker. The truth is, the legs are made in a way that they can walk, and the head is made to walk. The head's subtleness is not made to conducive to walk on your head. Right? The legs can absorb a more what's the word for it? Absorb the impact, But the garments, therefore, are much more regarding what you walk, what's affected outside of you. That's why it needs to have a thicker garment, a heavier garment, a thicker, more coarse, more protective, thicker to protect him. Whereas, for example, you put, let's say, a crown on the head, or you put a cap in your head. A cap is not going to work well for walking on. And the general thing of the levushim is to conceal, to cover, and to conceal the body. And Adam Arishan, before the sin, he did not need garments to conceal his body. Wow. Because he was fundamentally not yet in a state of another. Let's see how he explains it. I don't know if he explains it. The explanation is because he was like a newborn child in his consciousness. He didn't think of himself like outside of something. So if you think of it like this, he was created to do what God wants. It wasn't like I'm me and I'm conscious of something outside of me. That's generally the explanation. I don't know if he's going to explain it, but he does. That's what he says here. So since garments are for another
person.
Now technically you could say the reason he didn't need it, there was no one around. But he's saying even more. He was not in a state, it's really, of another, of anything outside. Because like a newborn child is not conscious of themselves, because all they are is what they are. Consciousness, right, means there's you and there's what you're conscious of.
Conscious of like the earth he's walking on or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. He was what he was. It's like an animal in a positive way. He's created with everything he needs. He doesn't need to protect himself from something or to conceal or anything like that. And he was also distant and apart from anything that was outside of him. Means he was distant and separate from anything that was evil. You say, "Hey, a second, there was no evil." Well, no, there was. Not evil, but there would have been like it's a teivra. Therefore, he did not need garments of concealment. Let's go back to what he said. When a person is alone at home, and there's no cold, and there's no one else, there's no need for garments. Why would you put on garments? So there's sneeze reasons, but there's also reasons for the wind, because of weather, and so on. So the bottom line is, garments are a concealer, because they're connected to something outside of you that's causing you to have to do something that you wouldn't do naturally. I'll say, we learned the halachas tznius is even when you're all alone. That's another story, because why? Why am I all alone? Because you're conscious of sexuality. If you weren't conscious of it, it wouldn't be tznius. So it's also a zulas. Not a physical zulas, it's the thoughts. A word, like I said, newborn children, you dress them. That's how you do it, but they're not conscious of it. There's no real zulas that they don't sense themselves. Okay. After the chet, so the chet is explained in some places. What happened? He tasted it. Means now he's now an identity. That's not just expression of the divine. Let's use an example. Talk about tznius. We don't cover our hands. Adam didn't cover his hands either. Why did he cover? He covered his sexual part. Why? So it's not easy to cover because that became suddenly aware that this has a power. He suddenly became aware, I have a desire. There's an I and an experience. As soon as you have that, that's the chet. Basically, it's the split between subject and object. When a person is Mola Deus Hashem Kamayim Nechos, you're completely aligned. There's no two things going on. You are a channel, an agent for the divine. So you're not going to feel any type of thing, which is obviously going to be Atzilus. But anything outside of Atzilus, as soon as you have a chayil, you have two things, there's me and my experience, so yes, I feel holy now.
At that point, he knew there was something.
No, but if you had Chava before the Chet, so what? It was basically...
He had her in a biblical sense, but he knew she was a Zulus.
But a Zulus as a godly Zulus, not a Zulus as I have a desire or my taiva or my Yetzer Hara. It's part of just like you have eyes to see. Remember the idea of a lust or something inappropriate didn't exist. He didn't have that type of consciousness. His consciousness was that I'm here in this world and to serve God. He had choice. That's why he was able to do what he did. But that was the alignment. As soon as he tasted from it, now he became a new type of consciousness. It's like a person, let's say a child reads in a book, there's a thing called good and evil. That's not when and then there's tasting good and evil. It's not the same thing.
That kind of happened before.
Yeah, fine, but good, but that's all. No one says that there was a world. There was a world and there was the experience, but a consciousness was not a consciousness. Let's put it this way: the consciousness of something outside of Kedusha, and you're in Kedusha, didn't exist. You were in, they were in, completely in. The world we live in, there's a havdalah, chodesh l'chol, because we that's how we experience things. There's a duality. They didn't experience duality. There was oneness, basically.
Oneness within the duality.
Within the world of duality, yeah. Right. So, achrachet, here we go. Hotzach levushim amastirim. They needed garments to conceal. V'hine haguf ugamkin levush. Now the body is also a garment. So there's a lot of stuff he's saying here. Let's just sum it up so far. So we summed up so far. He started like this. He started by saying, to understand Behirus, we have to understand that we're talking about Kalim. It's coming to distinguish between Kalim and Levushim. So the Kalim are like a window, a pane of glass, clear glass, that just lets the light through. To understand that, he went to a discussion on Posach Eliyahu, what means Eser Tikunin. He said Tikunin is Levushim. But why is Levush Tikun? So he says, because we're not talking about garment, we're talking about Takshitim. It's a higher levush. It's like the garments that are connected with you. So they're revealers. But then now, that's where we're now, but there are garments that are concealers. And those concealers are primarily because of outside forces. Either other people or other experiences. That's essentially what he said so far. And then he went on to say that then within garments itself there's distinctions for that reason. Because of these outside different types of experiences, that's what you need to have different garments for. So even though it's also due to the body itself, the head is a subtler part of the body than, let's say, legs, but it's primarily, pashut, simply, is because the legs walk on places they need to have more protection. So their garment is thicker. More, what's the word for it? Not resilient, more absorbing, more tougher. They're tougher. And then there's garment check. And now he went back and said, like Adam Arishan, before the Chet, there was no Zulas, there was no outside experience, and even the things outside of him were completely apart, did not affect him, so he did not need a garment. Think of Kodesh Kodashim being the whole world is Holy of Holies. There's nothing to conceal. It's all pure, divine. Concealment in this context, we're talking about now, not garments that reveal. Garments that conceal are distinguishing between two things. I'm now in a place where I need to conceal something, either because it's cold, because there's others there, there's consciousness, whatever it may be. That's basically what he said so far. That's where he's going now, the guf. Now he's going to say it could be a concealer as well. What's there's levels? Look, listen, we're going to end up being many levels of levushim, the thickest, and there'll be levushim that are closer to containers. Remember that. That's all. Remember, there's levush machshava, the vidibur, ma'isa. There are three levushim. So be prepared. Hine agufu gam ken levush. This is what he's going to say now. Kuf, the body itself, even before you put anything, is also a garment to the faculties within. U'kamesha kosev, Eiru basar talbisheni. Dress me, or you dressed me, with eir, with skin, and flesh, and basar, and meat, and flesh. Ach einin yoni lahastir. But that body as a lavush, as a garment, is not to conceal. Ki'im shebetechi yislabish eir v'chayis hanefesh v'yizgala al yodeh. There's not to conceal. There's that within it should be manifest, should be enclosed the life, the energy and life force of the soul, and it should be revealed through the body. In that sense, the body is a revealer. Because all the faculties of the soul, their revelation is through the limbs of the body, the organs and limbs of the body. Like the power of sight in the eye, power of hearing in the ear. Without the chemer, the body, the substance of the eye, the substance of the ear, there would be no seeing and no hearing. He's going back to literally things he said in the beginning of the Hemshech, in the first chapters, if you remember.
No, you're not see in here, even without that.
Can it? Close your eyes. Can you see?
No, but before it goes into the body.
We're not talking about the nefesh. Can you see with closing your eyes? You.
No, because I'm in the body already.
Look, can you see with close your eyes? I'm not even talking about not having eyes, God forbid.
It's already in the body. That's what then it becomes. It gets.
So that's what he's talking about. The faculties, as they are, without the kelim, cannot be revealed. We're not talking about the nefesh. First of all, the nefesh and ruchnius and atzilus, I don't know if it can see like we see. Maybe it doesn't see gashmis. How do you know it sees a table? Maybe it sees. Yeah, it doesn't. You have to have something physical to see physical.
Maybe.
It's possible. It's a good discussion.
That's true.
It's a good discussion.
It's a very good discussion.
It says,
I would say it probably doesn't. It may see something, but it probably doesn't. Like that. That's why Malach Machol after Simchus Torah. What are these shoes? All the Malachim. What are these things? They couldn't see. They couldn't recognize what they were. What the question is what they saw. They saw strange objects. It says foreign objects. What does that mean?
They didn't belong. Some of you didn't belong there.
The Rebbe says in the Sikh in Tov Shin Tes, an interesting thing. He says that they saw gash. How do you see shoes in Gan Eden? In Gan Eden, you see the ruchnis of the shoes. You don't see shoes. What do you mean they saw foreign objects in the first place? So the Rebbe says that was a nimna nimnois thing. You have to say that it was like, because that's the power of dancing Simchus Torah, that it actually the physical shoes. But that would be an anomaly anyway, right? Because Simchus Torah, it wouldn't be that they see. They probably do not see the world as we see it. They would see a tree. They would see.
They wouldn't be able to go through it if they see it.
Yeah. So.
Go through it.
not necessarily in the Shama.
That's interesting because we always say souls see us, but we don't see them. But what do they see in us? That's good. It makes me feel better because I thought they see every sin we do. Maybe this way they only see the. It's like comes a sin, they get blinded. Without that, they only see the. You have to say Ruchnius sees the Ruchnius of it. No way they can see that. It's like the story with the Rebbe Rashab and the Razah when he grabbed his hand. He says, if fire touches fire, it doesn't get burned. He said, what's a Rebbe? As children, they were playing. So he said, what's that Rebbe? What's a Eid? He says, Eid is fire. So he grabbed his hand and said, if it's fire, why didn't I get burned? So he says, when fire touches fire, it doesn't get burned. When flesh touches fire, it gets burned. That's interesting. But regardless, this is a neshama beguf. So you need the kelim. We have the charif and maksha. He's on top. You don't let. It's good.
It has to be that way because how could a neshama come into a room if the doors are closed, the windows are closed? If he sees the gashmis, he wouldn't be able to go through it. The pashtus like it doesn't see the gashmis.
Depends what means gashmis. The question is whether gashmis is itself a greater shayla what it is. What's gashmis?
And they heard they knocked on the door, knocked on the door. There was a chair, they moved. He heard, he said the shlavs,
yeah, the story. And also they came to visit Alta.
What's the end of the story?
The end of the story was that he knew that the Tzemach wanted him to be asleep. But he heard him talking to, so obviously, if you open up the door and you close the door, why do you have to open up the door?
Yeah, no.
They're going to come in without opening up the door.
or by not the Rebbe.
But it's also a question of how much Bizgalus. There's another story, but not for now. I'll tell another time. But there's also a question of Bizgalus. Sometimes you could have a gili of Ruchnis that's not so revealed, and sometimes it manifests more in Gashmis. Like when Rabbeinu HaKadosh, it says, came to make Kiddush for his family, after that manifested clearly in a more Gashmistic way. When you say, let's say, Eliyahu Novi comes to the Seder, you don't have to say it's Gashmis. You could say, Baruch Nisi comes. It doesn't mean that. It says it clearly, because it says by Eliyahu, he comes to all the Brissen. But when it comes to Rabbi Nuna Sava, to save Rabbi Nuna Sava, Eliyahu says, I couldn't come because I was busy, with
somebody else.
It was coming to save Rabbi Nuna Sava. He was busy by,
learning with somebody else, right?
what was he busy doing? No, so the Chassidus says, the Kabbalah says, the reason is because he needed him as a body to save. Not just by a bris, he can be in 2 brises and 5 brises and 1,000 brises at once. Because he's only coming Ruchnisdik. There's definitely levels of manifestation, but that's already manifestation. Okay, interesting discussion. We're so Gushimdik, we think that if someone says you see something, they see it like we see it. Lav Davke. So let's say, here's now the question. So when you walk by the Rebbe, what does he see?
That's exactly the diamond.
Besides whether he knew you personally, did he see a light? And every light is different? Or did he see you in the grubkeit that you are, that you see yourself? That's the shayla. I'd rather hope, because I don't need help in my light. We need help in the grubkeit.
Person that doesn't see
bring the Yechidus to
that's. I went to Yechidus besides my bar mitzvah, Lamed Aleph, Lamed Beis, Lamed Gimel, Lamed Aleph, 4 times as a birthday boy. And, we did it completely mechanical. They told us, literally the same pan. Like literally copied from the last year. It was a joke. I mean, now I think about it. And I stood in front of the Rebbe, 2 minutes, whatever it was. The Rebbe would read, the pans were given in before. I don't think I ever wrote anything special there, different. The whole, it was just like a copy. And I remember saying to myself, we're wasting the Rebbe's time here. But they said, you go, fine, we went. And then Chayel, that year, Lamadal, the Rebbe spoke, he said, he stopped all Yechidus for birthdays. He says, boy, people come in, it's the same thing that last year, they ask the same thing, I say the same thing, and there's no shinui. That was that.
But that was his reason?
It was also getting busier, and so in other words, the Rebbe was a kind Rebbe. If he has the time, fine, come in, you want to play games, because I'll told you. But then, when the Rebbe said it? No, it was shaking, of course. Standing in front of the Rebbe was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was shaking. Yeah. But no one prepared. It was all mechanical. I mean, no one told you, think about what you really need. No one even, sit down. You're 14 years old. What are you going to figure out on your own? You need someone that helps you a little, But no, it wasn't. I didn't have anyone that helped me. Yeah, you stand in front of the Rebbe. But
it wasn't imprinted in your psyche.
I mean, I stood effective, of course. Listen. Halavai. Let's put it this way: that's begolid to be'etzem. Not necessarily. No. I behaved that day usually, and the next day. The next day, question how long it lasted. It was more makiv than Pnimi, I have to say that. Now, that Rebbe saw me, and I'm sure gave me keiches that till today it lasts. That I have no shayla. So I'm not worried about that. I'm talking about you asking me. But later years, Bochrim, there was a chkira by Bochrim. In our days, it wasn't as many relevant, because I stopped already. I was 17, was my last time I went. But I remember then, Bochrim would talk, there was a chkira whether they should go. Some Bochrim said, what's geistet zum Rebbe? You're doing anything to change yourself? You're not doing anything anyway. You're the same grubber guy. You're doing the same thing. So what do you? So some Chassidish guy said, "You want to go do something with yourself." Others said, "The Rebbe is the Rebbe. I am who I am. I come naked to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, whatever." The true Chassidish guys actually didn't go. By the way, that was it wasn't official. What mashpiyim? They were absentee. We had absentee mashpiyim. Who were the mashpiyim then? Shalom Arozov, Yael Khan, and
what did they say?
They didn't say much. They were detached. What did I say? If you want to speak to them, I don't know. I never felt I had any mashpim to talk to. I could only speak for myself. Maybe some people had.
For the Rebbe announced have a personal mashpia.
And even then, and how many people today have good mashpiyim? Many say that mashpiyim that are abusive. Some say have abusive mashpiyim or mashpiyim. Look, it's good to everyone should have a mashpiyah, but the question is, if you find the good one, is the right one. It's always good to have someone you can just talk to and get advice that's objective. But mashpiyim I meant was a little more deeper, that can help you, like a mentor, that will help you figure yourself out a little. I mean, not just come with a question, what do I do? Give me advice.
That was the best method you could find.
We didn't really have. It was not so. It was sad, a bit sad.
Very, very strong.
100%, especially today. If everyone had a good mashpiyah, we'd be in good shape. Anyway, so here we go. The nefesh, before it manifests in the body, the keiches, the faculties are scholars, they're encompassed, engulfed, you can say, v'salmus, and concealed inside the nefesh. V'enim is galim klan, they are not revealed at all. Well, inyan hu? Okay, so what are we saying now? So basically, he just said that the guf is also a lavush. But guf is a lavush, the body, the skeleton, or the human body is a lavush, is a garment that reveals, because without it, the soul's faculties would remain concealed. So he said, what the inyan in this is, commissions Barleil, Perek Tzadik Aleph, as we learned before chapter 91. What was chapter 91? Just refresh myself. Baratzilas. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's the whole thing there, yeah. We learned there, what we learn, that the air, light, like he brought with the flame there, is in a form of constantly being drawn back and being encompassed in its source, if it doesn't have something to grasp and hold on to it, like a wick. There he spoke about Eris and Kalim, how Kalim revealed the air. It was the beginning of the second interpretation of story, rather. Same thing, the faculties. If they don't have a container in which they can be grasped and contained, they're in a state of encompassment in the soul, in the spirit. You don't at all have capable of any light, seeing or hearing at all. Okay, he's asking a question, and what it's explained elsewhere. He's not saying that the soul sees what's here. It says elsewhere that the soul does see and hear the calls from above. Chruzim l'mayla is what we say in the Mishnah, that every day a baskel, a call. Like a iu chazu, mazlai chazu. Yeah, but also now.
Now, even when it's...
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it says in the Mishnah, that every day a baskel, a call comes out. Oi, the different baskels. There's a call for tshuva. Yeah, exactly. And there's another one, shuva banim shevu. So the Chassidus asked the question, I don't know if he's going to go there. Why is there a call if we don't hear it? Because the soul does hear it. So the soul sees, not only hears, sees and hears the calls from Achruz. Achruz is a call, is a cry, is a declaration, Achruzim. Yeah, a loud call. A summon. You hear a summoning. So that too is through a garment. That's the answer. It's a garment through which there's the revelation of the faculties. In other words, the soul without any levush at all will not hear or see anything. Speaking even ruchnis, in other words. Because even a soul above, meaning not even in a body, also has a garment. So the soul has a garment. It's just not a body like the angels have a body. Now remember, we're not talking about physical bodies. We're talking about some type of manifestation. Vehim Yisei the Sadakim from by Malachim. Malachim have bodies, but they come from the very subtle elements. elements. It's like fire, in a way. Fire also has a body, but can you touch it? You can't. Water you can touch. Offer. Like you said earlier about Aish. Aish are more right. They're more subtle elements. So next time a wind blows, it may be an angel whispering in your ear. Shamas above have no bodies, like it says elsewhere. But nevertheless, and the soul has a lavush, a garment. And that is a very subtle and spiritual, ethereal garment that does not conceal. And that's why through it, in it, and through it, the spirit is able to see and hear. Yeah. He's saying that a guf is also, the etzem guf is also lavush, but it's a lavush that reveals. Because without it you couldn't see and hear. He said, what about Neshama see and hear the chruzim? So he said, that's also lavush, it's just a different lavush. It's a very subtle garment. It's not a body like in a body.
So what's the difference between malachim and levushim?
He doesn't explain it here, but clearly it's not the same thing. The real difference is, he doesn't explain it here. I would say the difference is here the other way around. A guf is a more of a confined place. Once a soul comes in a body, it doesn't leave. Once a malach is inside of a body, meaning its body, that's what its role is. It doesn't have another. The shamis that are lamaila don't yet have a designated place. But they need some garment to express themselves or to experience. Yeah, that's the general explanation for it. Gufim is generally more of a, once you're sent on a mission, you're staying in your body till the rest of your life. Because levushim you can change. So the shamas are still in a place of, they're not yet defined yet. So, but they still need, but point he wants to make is there's nothing that's revealed without some type of. Yeah. So basically, Eir without Keli is not revealed. That's what he's saying here. Levushim are a concealing thing, and the body, Kelim are a revealing thing. Okay. Let's continue, yeah. Now he goes back. That's Lamaila. Now let's go back to Hanasham and Aguf. Same thing, Ayin through the substance, through the matter of the eye, the Azen of the ear, who is Galas HaKeches Deriyo Shmiya, is the revelation of the faculties of seeing and hearing, and also to see and hear physical things. So two things here, saying. He's answering this, yeah. In other words, it's not just for it to be able to see and hear, period, because also above you can see and hear, but it's also, the Chaimim lets you see and hear Gashmis, where Neshama Lamaila is only going to see and hear Ruchnius. Okay, so everything needs a keli. The question is, what type of keli? Yeah, it makes total sense, because think of it like sunglasses, or glasses that shades. If you want to see something, or those other glasses that you can only see through them, you see night vision. So a neshama is and a ruchni is the good thing. How is it going to see gashmis? It's pashut. So it has to have a chayim. It has to have something that is a filter that translates gashmis into ruchnis. The truth is, when you think about it, sight itself. When we're looking at this table. Does everybody see the same table like I do? You see flowers. They're like pinkish white. How do you know I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing? Because I just described something that sounds to you. But how do you know what I see as pink and you see as pink is the same? Is there such a thing even as objective? We're seeing like an image of it. We're seeing a reflection. And the truth is, we're really seeing more the subtle image of it than the thing itself. And I touch it. You touch it. What do you feel? You feel the same thing I feel? Probably, right? We shake hands. You feel hand on a hand. It's not so simple, these matters, actually. Because it sounds, because we live in the Chitzeni, so everything looks like.
So when somebody sees something from a different perspective.
Like when you see it on if you saw this tablecloth now on camera away from here, you're seeing different than what I'm seeing. You're just far. But you're seeing an image of an image, really. An image of an image of an image. Because if you see it here, it's also an image of the thing. Then you see a camera is an image of that, but it looks exactly the same thing. If I move it, you see. Anyway, it's the mysteries of perception. Fine. שיסגל שהכיחס דרשמיהם גם נזמש מדברים גשמיים. Okay. וזהו מה שאיברי הגוף מגלים as הכיחס, and this is the meaning he's been saying, that the limbs and organs of the body reveal the faculties, that means that they should be revealed, they should impact. Also something outside of them. That's what he's going back to, that levush. Either way, whether it's a revealing garment or a concealing one, it's about something outside of them. The faculties of seeing and hearing, for example, they're not be'erech, they're not commensurate to impact something that's physical. Okay, he's elaborating here. Because the faculties on their own are ethereal. They're not. What gives them the ability to experience something that is physical? It's some physical interface called the kelim, the evodim. The same thing on a higher level, the power of the mind to conceive, is also through the substance, the matter of the brain.
Brain matter.
Yeah, without that too, the whole intelligence would be inside the nefesh, would be encompassed in the spirit, and would not be capable of just conceiving of ideas. The comprehension of souls began Eden. Now he's going again above. Same thing like he said with the Cheruzim. That's the comprehension of souls in Gan Eden. They do have comprehension. That too is through a garment. A garment that the soul has. Through that, the soul is shaped. That through these garments, the soul becomes shaped and defined in faculties that allow it to have conception and comprehension. Here too, the same thing. So either always, no matter what, if it's a soul above, it needs a garment to experience spiritual ideas. If it's down below, it needs the garment, the body, the brain, to, what does he say? That the mind should be able to understand even very crass matter. How could our mind understand crass matter? Our mind is a spirit thing, because it's the physical brain that becomes the interface for that. So all this is basically showing us what? That you need something outside for a garment. Only difference is there are garments that are uniting, and there are garments that are not. Okay, continue here. So the whole purpose, the whole idea of the body is there should be the revelation of the spirit of the soul, and that it should to function through it, to produce through it, to impact, to function, to produce impact, to work through it, to work through these instruments. Let's put it this way: it's instruments. It's like without instruments, you can't do anything. This is the garment that is united. Yeah. That's what he said right away. The guf is a guf amiyuchet. He said guf. Guf is ach ein inyan lahaskel. He said this because he said earlier at the bottom of the previous page that there's a levush miyuchet, there's levush hanifred. He's not yet finished the subject matter. He's just beginning to develop it. So now he says this is a levush amiyuchet shemisyachad im hanefesh umagala esei. The body is a levush amiyuchet. It's a garment that's attached, that's united with the body. He unites with it, umagala, and reveals it. And just like begashmius, haguf she'ef shelafeshte, like a physical, like we see physically, a body you cannot undress and replace. Not like actual garments that you can undress and dress on and off. Because it is the united garment. And the same thing is also in its functions. Lagabe hanefesh, in its functions in relation to the soul, spirit. Shagufu levush hamiyuchid, that the body is a uniting garment. In Yoni legalis, its Indian is to reveal, and to bring, actualize, and realize the faculties into lidei pula, into a functional. So what do we sum up from all this? We sum up is that kalim are behirus, and atzilas they reveal, like glass. To explain that, he went to this whole thing with levushim. So far we determined there's two types of levushim. There are those that conceal, there are those that reveal. But either way, they're for something outside of the essence of the thing. Because the thing itself, without some experience outside of it, does not need it. But on the other hand, is the garments that reveal everything. And in this case, we're talking about a guf. The body is like a garment that's united with you can't undress or dress it, and it reveals. And also the way it reveals is in a unifying way. It reveals the soul in its real way. Like a garment, even an ornament, as we'll probably learn, is not revealing as much as, let's say, the body and the faculties are. Okay, there's plenty. Okay, just beginning to a whole new long discussion on this. So we'll do the kitzur.
There's two places it reveals. It reveals to Zuz and it reveals to itself, the world. So it goes to
Yeah. Correct. The faculty is revealed, and it also reveals the relationship with the physical, or whatever it is. So let's say the difference between the head and the leg, he said before, was that number one is more subtle than the other, but also their relationship with the things outside of them are different. So it's a similar thing here, I guess. And the head has more subtle garments because it deals with more subtle situations. The leg. Okay. Kitzur, Hapirish Hagimel B'Sefirah, Loshen Aven sapir. The third interpretation of Sefirah is from the word sapphire stone. These are the containers that reveal the energy, the light. Not like garments. And he explained that there's a separate garment, like the garments of a human being, Their role is to conceal the body, and conceal it from something outside of it. Then there's a garment that's united, like the body. The organs reveal. Without the garments, without this levush, without the body, the organs, the faculties would be encompassed in the spirit. And also the revelation of the faculties of the soul, even before it manifests in the body, is also through a ethereal, a spiritual garment. No, yeah, that's fine. He said that. It's another story, right? That's not. I wouldn't bring that here. Yeah. Okay. So we did chapter 104, page 200 through the top of 202.